So we're going to whip through the signs quickly just to give you the overview before we jump into groups. But just to get, remember I said, we can use an analogy like child to adulthood or primitive to more sophisticated or whatever we want. But these signs represent that journey from basic to more complex, starting with Aries. So Aries is that fire sign. The first sign is cardinal fire. So again, every sign has one element and one quality associated to it, or one modality. So there's only one fire cardinal. There's only one fire mutable. There's only one, that's the way it goes. So there's 12 total. 3 by 4 is the square we're looking at. So Aries is like the child. This is like ages 0 to 7. No sense of past. Okay? We're in the now. It's now time. It's fun time. It's play time. Life is all play. It's assertive and strong and quick-tempered because there's no sense of guilt and regret. Aries energy in its pure self. Again, this doesn't mean that everyone with Sun in Aries is like this, but there is a component of them in the inner and the inside that is like this. Their true inner essence is like this, okay, if they could let it out. But most Aries, when we look at their chart, we'll see how that's blocked, how this energy isn't allowed to express, all right? That's what causes the issues. But this is in them, okay? And there's a naivety to Aries energy. And you could have other planets, like I have Mercury in Aries, okay? That is the intellect. That's how I think quickly. I think fast. I'm ahead of the game. I'm the way I think, but I also say things before I think about them too. And I regret things that I say because I can say things that in the heat of the moment aren't that nice. But that's the Aries expression of the voice, of the communication, okay? And there's Aries expressions of how we take action, and there's Aries expressions, so that would be Mars, kind of from here, okay? Mercury is here. Mars is like third chakra. And then there's like Venus, which is going to be more like heart-based, how you take in energy. There's an Aries way of doing that. And we're going to see how that all kind of works in your different charts. And so the ruler of Aries is Mars. So that energy of Mars, you think of Mars, I think even if you're not into astrology, you have an idea of what Mars is. It's that energy, assertion, active energy. So that's the basic level. So first it's poof, I am energy. Then how do you define the I am energy? How do you give it form in a sense of I am this and I am not that? That's where Taurus comes in. Taurus is the key word is I have. In other words, I have this which makes me what I am, and you have that which makes you what you are. And it's very earthy. It's fixed. Earthy, fixed. Taurus gets a reputation for being very stubborn. And that's because it's fixed earth. It's as stable as it gets. It's stability. It's reliability. Okay? So again, people that have Taurus suns, this is part of what's in them, but it isn't the only thing that's going to be expressed, And people that have like their Mercury in Taurus are going to express their communication in this Taurian way, even if they're a Gemini who is more talkative. If you're a Gemini sun, your Mercury's in Taurus, inwardly you want to be interacting and talking. We'll talk about Gemini in just a second. But you might filter your voice through this Taurian layer. This unconsciously doing this. You're kind of unconsciously going, keep it under wraps, keep it under control. Okay? And that's how that can come out. So material world is very much about Taurus. It's ruled by the planet Venus. That's stuff, what I value. Okay? Gemini, I think. So now it's like 0 to 7 is Aries, that child with no sense of guilt. 7 to 14 is like the Taurus, defining the personality between ages 7 and 14, right? Then ages like 14 to 21, which is basically high school and college, or in the I think level. Gemini, learning information, taking in information, sharing, socializing, all the things that Gemini are about. Social, getting the word across. Okay, this is ruled by Mercury, as you would expect. The whole idea of this being communication and everything else. And it's flexible and versatile and restless. It's all about, what's next? And curiosity. And saying, tell me more. That's Gemini. I have 2 Gemini parents myself. But they're locked down Geminis. They don't express it. You see? They're both, when I see their charts, I go, oh, there it is, But the idea is in them, and in Geminis, there is this real communicator, conversationalist, this curiosity that exists. So it's an air sign. Its modality is mutable, very flexible. Just like the air. It's just going to get tossed around, And it just fits around things. The air, just the wind goes through the cracks, That's the flexibility of a Gemini. So We have basic energy, a definition to that energy. And now we have an exchange of that energy. Now we can actually exchange between these definitions. That's the communication realm. Then we go a little deeper to the first water sign, Cancer. I feel. All right? That's when we're dealing with the idea of having more meaning and depth. So it's not just about interacting anymore, which Gemini was about. Now it's about meaning behind the interaction. That's where the idea of family comes in. The important people, my circle of trust. Meet the Parents, Meet the Fockers, that movie, The Circle of Trust. Very Cancer kind of energy to that. That's what if you think of Cancer energy, that's what to think about. Circle of trust, family. Who's allowed in, who's not allowed in. And this is where we get the idea of the evolution. It's just like basic survival is Aries. Taurus is now we have our stuff in our cave, your stuff in your cave. Gemini is trade, interaction. Cancer is tribe, my family, right? Yeah, my peeps and my not peeps, all right? And it's ruled by the moon. The moon is that, again, that feeling, unconscious side of the self. Then we get to Leo, the next fire sign. So we've gone through the whole realm of elements, then we'll go through it one more time, then another time again. So this is a fire fixed. I will. That's Leo energy. This is true self-expression, right? So if you've gone through these rungs of, you have a family, okay, great. But how am I special? That's where Leo comes in. Where is my specialness in this family? I'm not just one of this tribe. What is my thing? This is where Leo comes in. So it's optimistic. It's a lot of things that Aries are. That's why fire energies are similar. But it's a rung higher than Aries. It's less naive than Aries. It's more confident, proof-based than Aries. Aries is just like, whatever. I don't know. And Leo's kind of like, oh, I'm great because, That's a big difference between I'm great and I'm great because, right? And that's Leo. Leo is proud. They're proud, on top of the confidence. They're sunny, flamboyant. But the good, the great positive side of Leo energy, if anyone knows, and people with Leo suns typically are obvious. This isn't usually locked down, but there are people. I know people that have Leo suns that are very locked down. They don't appear to be Leonian in any way. But when it's not locked down, it's very obvious. Leo is very sunny. It's very willing to. It's very generous and giving. But it can, if it's overlooked, that's when Leo has a negative side, which is what about me? What about me? And if you have, for example, Leo moon. I have a lot of experience with Leo moons because the moon again represents the unconscious side, how we react. People can appear to be very stable and okay, and then you overlook them in some way. And even though they're kind of going, oh, I shouldn't be mad right now, they're steaming. And that would be a Leo moon. It's just like, what about me? And then they feel like guilty, like, why did I react like that? I shouldn't have reacted that way. Yeah. Okay. So don't overlook. Yeah, right. Give you your due. That's the idea. But anyway, that's the way that's just an example of how that can work. All right. And like you could have, for example, someone could be a Virgo. We'll talk about that's the next sign, and that's kind of shy. A little bit shyer. It's just more about perfection before expression. But if their Mercury is in Leo, they're going to say things before they're confident with it, you see? That's how that can come out. Okay. So then Virgo, I analyze. This has a lot to do with purpose and practicality. It's earthy, immutable. Okay. I have a lot of Virgo energy in my chart. This is an energy I'm very close to. It's practical, responsible, sensible, analytical, discriminating, careful, precise, punctual. I had everything set up at 9:58. That was not by accident. Okay, but I was trained to be this way. We'll see that when we talk about the ascendant, and I have my ascendant and moon, my rising sign and moon are both in Virgo. That was my conditioning, was to be that way. I was trained to be in line, on time. Boom, boom, boom. Even though I'm a Pisces who just wants to float around and experience life and whatever. Let's not plan anything. Let's wing it. Like here, I'm just winging it. I have slides, but I don't plan what I'm going to say. It comes out different every time I give a talk. That's the Pisces, just let it flow. But anyway, Virgo, if we have a sense of specialness, well, what's the point of being special if you can't use it for something, right? So what service do I apply my specialness? That's Virgo. Virgo deals with service, work, how you serve humanity. So it can be, it's a energy that can be used quite a bit because it looks very helpful. It's like, ooh, that person can help me. And that's what I exude. I exude a helpful energy. I'm always the first person someone's in a, if I'm in a room of people and there's stuff that has to be picked up and moved, I'm the first person people say, ooh, can you help with this?
See, I have the rising. I'm right behind.
Yeah, Virgo rising, exactly. If you have Virgo rising, you appear to the world to be someone who wants to help everyone. So someone who needs help sees you as a helper.
But the rising symbol, what is that? The symbol of the rising and the. I was trying to figure out like where the Saturn is and.
I'm not sure what your question
The
is.
symbols on the chart that represent where the rising is. And I figured out the moon, obviously.
Well, the left-hand side where the first house starts,
yeah.
that's that degree right there. That's your rising sign.
This is your.
But it's very dependent on birth time. It's very dependent on birth time. So if your birth time is inaccurate, then I wouldn't look at the rising sign.
Well, I was just wondering what the symbols are for the different planets. So, kind of like when you're talking about Mercury. Well,
Yeah.
you've got Leo and Mercury.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well,
Yeah. We're gonna see those a little bit. We'll see them on the next show. We'll get to see them. But anyway, so now we're kind of halfway through the signs here. So we have basic energy, definition, exchange, sense of family or tribe, specialness within the tribe, and then a service for that specialness. You see how that all kind of evolves. There's a pattern to this. It's not random signs lined up and strewn about. Then we get to another air sign, which is another exchange. All right. Now we have a full self that has a service to give, that's got a uniqueness. How do you share yourself now with others? This is Libra, deals with relationships. What are we talking about today? Relationships. Libra. It's about learning how to balance your true, but assuming you're going to keep that whole authentic self true. It's about authentic balance. But the negative side of Libra is that accommodation of others at sacrificing yourself for that. Okay? And so that is what can happen. Too much peacemaking can occur with Libra. Too much diplomacy. Too much graciousness. But those are very positive things too, assuming the self is being maintained and preserved. The problem with relationships, how we approach the Libra realm, is that we tend to go, I could be adjusted. Let's see, what do I got to do here to fit in there? Okay, now I can fit. And if two people are doing that, then you have two people leaning, nobody's standing, right? And that's what most relationships are, is nobody's standing. Nobody's on their feet. Everybody's hoping their feet will hold me up. That's not the best way to go. But that's the kind of lesson through Libra, is balance. But balance isn't about finding the balance in your lean, but finding two people that stand that can exchange from two standing positions. Then we get to the next water sign, which is, again, anytime we go into the water sign, it's about transformation. It's about diving deep and transforming. Scorpio, I desire. This is intensity, determination. I've had a lot of experience with Scorpios. Scorpio is, again, it's very, very deep in this kind of a society. When you have that kind of depth, it can feel like there's no place to put it. So Scorpios can, if they don't feel like they're able to express their true depth, can often bottle it up. And it can come through in not so nice ways. And those are the types of Scorpios I tend to attract. The ones that need help. In other words, that think I'm crazy and I need help. You're going to help me. That's what I tend to attract. That female version of that Scorpio. See, that's.
And I was married to a male.
Okay.
A very powerful.
Yes. Yeah, I had a 2-year relationship with a Scorpio that taught me a lot.
See, I've got a
You
very
do learn a lot from it if you
girlfriend.
escape with your
Yes.
partner.
Yeah. And you have to destroy the relationship. You cannot. A Scorpio will not let a relationship go. So you have to destroy it. You have to annihilate it. That's the only message that they can receive, because they will hold on to the
I've got
end.
a 30-year relationship with a female Scorpio. It's awesome. Very
It can't.
supportive.
Yeah. A Scorpio that is
They have had a much healthier.
exactly.
Well, and she's probably got
Someone who has Scorpio energy that feels like they can express their depth and have an outlet for their depth. Yeah, very compassionate, very, very supportive, very kind. They're very, very conscious of your feelings. That's the idea. But if they feel like they've been betrayed
Oh, yeah.
and they've been hurt, and hell no, you're not going to hurt me, then the expression is, that desire expression just becomes, you are mine.
Forever.
Forever.
and ever.
No, I can feel the energy. This is 5 years ago I ended a relationship that was like a 2-year relationship. I can still feel that she thinks there's a part of me that she can claim.
Sure.
And that's the, you got to watch out for that. And she came running to that Virgo energy, and I was, whoa, I didn't see it as pain, but it took a few months to develop. Anyway, but point is, that's how, the whole point of Scorpio, though, is the going deep to the truth. That's what Scorpios do. They find the truth. That's what I got out of that, was the idea of who I wasn't, even though she was trying to make me what she wanted me to be. But I found out who I wasn't, which was good. That's one step. So there's a lot of positives to that. Okay? Anyway, so then the next stage is the last fire sign. Now we have the last... That Scorpio is kind of going from personal to collective, too, if you think of it that way, the transformation from personal to collective. We get to Sagittarius, now we're looking at the collective fire, the idea of what we see on the horizon. We have horizons, we have a sense of boundaries, then we have what's beyond those. Sagittarius is what's beyond the boundaries. So when we talk about expanding our minds, that's Sagittarian realm. Learning, higher learning is part of the Sagittarian realm. Philosophy. Religion is a Sagittarian thing. It's a belief system, okay? Any kind of explorer energy is Sagittarius energy, okay? The United States of America, the rising sign for the United States is Sagittarius. So how we appear, our role in the world, is this. The first to the moon. We're going to be the first to the moon. Manifest destiny. We're going to go from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast. It's all ours. We see beyond. You see? That's the United States of America's role in the world. We think we're this. The sun sign for the United States is Cancer, the true self. That's where you get the sense of both the positive and negative side of that, which is, welcome to our home. We take your tired, weak, hungry, blah, blah, blah. There's Cancer. But then there's also, let's put a fence up so that people don't come in, because circle of trust. Right? There's your Cancer. There's the United States. You can see it. It's really interesting to unravel it for different things. Capricorn, collective rules, society, government. That's what this deals with. So the sense of, all right, we have a vision. We know where we're going, but how are we going to make ourselves get there? How are we going to keep everyone in line to get us to our vision? That's Capricorn. So organization, discipline, security, again, earthiness, cardinal. Okay. Then we get to Aquarius. I know. It's air sign. I know. Right? And it's very scientific. It's individualistic. It's progressive. It's future-oriented. It's a sense of fairness. Okay? So the positive side of Aquarius is a sense of, I am me and whole, and you are you and whole, and we can both coincide, and we can live together in peace. That's the positive side of Aquarius. The negative side of Aquarius is, I'm right, and you're wrong. And you must be wrong because I'm right. Right? That's the negative side of Aquarius. It's knowing for knowing's sake. And so,
Is that your sun sign too?
remember, there's only one other sign left.
Notice we're
And most people would say, well, isn't this the epitome of evolution right here, that you finally know? And what do we say about astrology? What do we say about gravity? We don't know everything. You can't ever know everything. That's the lesson for anyone with strong Aquarius energy, is you're never going to know everything. There's always something more to know. So you may think you know, but you don't. Like people with Mercury and Aquarius always sound like they know what they're talking about, whether or not they do. Has nothing to do with what they know. It has to do with how they come across with what they know. When I'm talking to someone with Mercury and Aquarius, I'll often be like, wow, that's really, I didn't know that. And then I'll find out they have Mercury and Aquarius, and I go, oh, it might be true, but it might not be. It sounded very true. Well, there's some way of, there's an air of confidence and arrogance behind the statements of someone with Mercury and Aries. Again, this has nothing to do with the Sun in Aries, but Mercury and Aries.
Please forget all this before this afternoon's session.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, yeah, but the idea is you could well know what you're talking about. And someone in Aquarius that does know what they're talking about, they're talking about something they're very knowledgeable about, that's a great person to get the information from, because they're going to tell you exactly how it is.
Well, it's funny, I have from the inside out that experience, that sometimes I'll get on a roll, I'll have a conversation, I'll feel passionate about something, I'll go with it, and right after the fact I'm like, God, that was full of shit.
But the idea is that you have to present it. Like, you have Mercury and Aquarius?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm an Aquarius.
Sun in Aquarius
That would
is
make perfect sense.
all right. Well, we'll find out. Anyway, so that's that wrong. And then we have the final sign, Pisces, which is water, mutability, and that's I believe. And I had someone with Mercury in Aquarius say, "Wait a minute, I know is a higher rung than I believe. Shouldn't I know be the last one and not I believe?" This is someone with Mercury in Aquarius saying it. I'm like, well, I would expect you to think that, you know. And I was like, well, no, because we can't know everything. You have to literally trust and open yourself to life, because this is the whole point of today, the heart-based opening. I'm trying to bust open our mind, loosen up all these things that are screws in our mind, so that this afternoon we can just melt into the heart-based part. That's the whole point. And the idea is we get to that conclusion that no matter how much you know, no matter how much you organize, no matter how much you put together, boy, there's a whole lot more to life. There's a whole lot more. You know, the universe is infinite, and that's the Piscean realm. The reality of infinity. The reality that you might as well forgive. You might as well let go. You might as well just dissolve. Because there's so much more we can just head to. And there's so much more we can do, and we don't have to be stuck with things. You know, that's the Piscean realm. It's a total dissolution. A total reinvention. It's like the womb. It's like you're starting over again. You know, and then it starts with Aries again. So you're going to be reborn, but not until you dissolve everything. Release everything. Release. And so, like, as someone with Sun in Pisces, myself, that's part of what this life is for me, is a life of dealing with some karma I've created in the past and releasing it. Okay? And that's I understand that.